Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Another Thursday morning, or another Thursday, whenever you're listening to this. It's always hard to kind of open this thing up when you're like, who knows when people are listening. So whatever it is, whenever it is, one, thank you for listening, and two, hopefully it's having a great day. Before we get into today, let's just let you know this episode brought to you by the Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X golf balls. We all know Titleist is the number one ball in golf. But do you know how they earned this title? It's simple. The Pro V1 and Pro V1X are the most played golf balls in the game. And you know what? It's not even close. In fact, most weeks, more than 70% of the field tee up a Pro V1 or Pro V1X. And the numbers are even more impressive at the amateur level, where they're the number one choice at the NCAAs, the U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Women's Amateur, the U.S. Junior, to just name a few. Make Titleist your number one. Tee up a Pro V1 or Pro V1X on your next round, and always bring your best. Yeah, Pro V1, Pro V1X, like I said, I've been playing Pro V1 a lot lately, just because, I don't know, just have. I think I like that softer feel of it. But, yeah, hopefully everybody's having a good week. It's crazy to think, like I said, another week is almost done, and, yeah, we're rocking and rolling. Like I said, today, I was so bummed. Yesterday was like 40 degrees out here in Metro Detroit. And I really wanted to get out, hit some balls and all that, but just had so much going on. And, between work, had to get, I leased my car, so I had to turn in my lease, get another one, and all that. It was just like the whole day was shot. And it was unfortunate because it was beautiful. It was like 40 degrees. And I know 40 degrees for most people, like in the South or the western part of the country, 40 degrees is insanely cold. But when it's been like 17 degrees or, something like that, and then you get a 40-degree day, I'll just say that it feels like it's like probably summer. There were people out in just t-shirts. I mean, I walked out cleaning crap out of my truck that's been there for 2 years, and I was just in basically like a sweatshirt and a pair of shorts because I pretty much when I work from home, I work in a t-shirt and shorts. But it was beautiful. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out there and hit any balls, but hopefully one of these days soon I'll do that. I'm going to do that, say, this weekend, but hopefully I can find a day like that where I can get out and hit balls without wearing 1,000 layers. So, but another week, and got a few things that I've hit. I unfortunately, again, this is stuff that I hit like 2 weeks ago when my launch monitors decided that they didn't want to work in 17-degree weather. So here I'm going to be, unfortunately, kind of doing more of an initial review just because I don't really have any numbers to go with it, which is unfortunate, but we'll try it again. We'll see if we can get either the full swing kit or the FlightScope Mevo Plus to cooperate in the cold weather. But it's just funny that those things, I need to reach out to like both companies and just be like, hey, did you ever think of, when you designed this, think it was, ever going to be used in such cold weather? But things, like I said, things are good here. I haven't really been tinkering much yet, just because I haven't been hitting that many balls at the range. I've just been going like once a week and bringing the stuff that I need to hit to kind of talk about on the show. So I've got a few kind of like projects in the works in terms of what I'm going to put together and some shaft changes and things like that. But so far nothing in the bag has been cemented yet. And I got a few things that I definitely want to change some shafts on and see how they perform. But I haven't really done it yet, just because I haven't really needed to, which is unfortunate. But definitely want to stamp a few wedges. I mean, just a lot of stuff I want to do. I just haven't done it, unfortunately. But yeah, so we've got a few things today. I mean, the first thing I'm going to get into today is, again, kind of an initial kind of review, because with this, if you're not hitting it off grass, it's really hard to really tell a whole lot. But I was hitting it off the mats just because that's all I've got right now. But I know a lot of people have been asking me questions about this, but it is the brand new SM9 wedges from Titleist. And as a lot of you know, I was playing SM8 all of last year. I mean, other than testing, other stuff, but I was playing basically the SM8s all year. I played the pitching wedge at 46, which I usually bent to 45, but 46 pitch. I played which is I think just the standard 10F grind. I think this is the 10F. I think it's the only option they make, and then, or at least the only option they make for us amateurs. And then I played the 5012F, which is the high bounce 50. Excuse me, which actually I've noticed a handful of players are starting to play a little higher bounce in those lower lofts. I've been helping out with doing some of the like what's in the bag and stuff like that on Golf WRX site, and noticed that I've seen a few of those 12-degree bounce 50 degrees in some bags lately, which is pretty cool. And then I played a 56D grind and I got a 60-degree D grind, but I actually didn't really put that in play. I played it a little bit, but then I went to the Cleveland RTX Zipcore Full Face 58 Raw out of there. So that was my wedge setup for last year. And, excuse me, and I know that was kind of like a ramble on that, but that was my setup, and actually I really liked it. I thought I mean, my wedge game is garbage, but I felt like I probably hit the best wedge shots of my golfing career, at least the best in a long time. And I think, going to a little higher bounce and all that, I think definitely helped here in the soft conditions, as I always mention. So, thankfully with SM9s, we get media samples, so we just kind of get what's sent to us. And we got sent a 5210 F, which was kind of like the it's not the jet black. What is it? It's like the I don't know. I can't even remember the name of the finish, but it's that kind of like kind of dark chrome finish. And then the 54 here, which is sitting in front of me, which is the jet black, and then a 60 in the standard brushed chrome. So we got three different wedges, and none of this is and I took out the 52 and the 54. Both were kind of the closest to what I play. The 60, I mean, I do play a 60. But it was like a really low bounce. It was a low bounce M grind, so 8 degrees of bounce, which I didn't take out. And honestly, it's actually because one of the guys at the office already had it, so he wanted to go hit it. So I didn't take the 60, but I did take the 54 and the 52. Out to the range, 52 is back at the office because, again, people wanted to hit them. So that one's here, but I do have the 54 in front of me, which I did hit. And I do have to say I like the shape a lot. When you set them down next to SM8, which I think I did a post on the Club Junkie Instagram account, which is at Club Junkie Pod. I think I did a post kind of separate, or not separate, kind of comparing the two. I think I did some side by side. Let me just check. Oh yeah, I did. I did at least a kind of an address side by side. I did the SM8 and then my SM9. So the SM8s, SM9s, I mean, really similar look. I mean, if you set them down next to each other, really probably similar look. I know the finishes are different because one was raw, one's black. The neck, the transition from basically hosel into the wedge head was it looks a little thinner with the SM9. Other than that, I mean, they're still pretty similar in terms of look. Toe is slightly rounded. It's not crazy square. It's I consider kind of right in the middle. It's not crazy squared. It's not really fully rounded, but very similar look at address if you're looking going from SM8s to SM9s. Definitely very like I said look similar. I was trying to think of like what actually looks different from address, and like I said, the hosel into the head is kind of it looks a little thinner on 9. That's about, for me, kind of all I've noticed. I mean, I definitely would want to see set down the 50, set down the, kind of all three, or kind of every, the 46, the 50, 56, and kind of compare them all. But I'll get to that when I can get my hands on more wedges. So I took this thing out, and it's just the stock wedge shaft in it, nothing custom, just, kind of what you would see right on the shelf at your local golf shop who carries SM9s. And hitting them, the first thing you notice, extremely soft. I think softer than SM8. It definitely has kind of that soft forge feel to it. I would say if you were blindfolded and hit this next to, one of your favorite forged wedges, say something like a Mizuno T22 or, something like that, which is a really soft wedge, I think it would be very hard to tell the difference. The feel on them is extremely good. SM8s I thought was really good, but they had a little bit of click, especially when you missed it a little bit, out on the toe or something like, not so much on the heel, but out on the toe a little bit. I thought SM8s, added a little click to it. These, I hit a decent amount of shots in the center of the face, but I definitely hit some on the outside of the toe, on the toe, which is just part of my terrible swing coming over the top and down on the ball. And even the shots, even at the very end of the grooves on the SM9s, felt extremely soft and extremely solid. You could really feel the ball compress on full shots, or even shots that were like 3/4 or around that. You could definitely, and again, hitting off mats, so that is a little different as well. But shots there that I was hitting, I mean, really feel the ball compress. It was really responsive. You really knew the feel was great. You really knew exactly where you hit it on the face. And the shots you hit off the toe, while they're still really soft, you still got just a little more vibration to know that, yes, you didn't hit it center. When you flushed it, it was pretty much, that old term, like, it was like butter. It really was. I mean, you almost just, you kind of felt the ball compress, and then just gone, and it was almost like nothing was there. It was really, a really, really good feel to it. Again, I wasn't able to hit, hitting off mats, sure, you can open the face a little bit, do those kind of things, but it really, turf interaction, the D grind kind of felt, I brought my 56-degree D, my SM8 out and kind of hit it against this, which I know is loft-wise different, but, turf interaction off the mat was pretty much the same. I know that's so stupid to say, but it was. But I really wanted to hit those two to see if I could kind of gather and hit those two against each other to just kind of see if I could gather any difference about, flight, because I know with the new SM9s, they've got a progressive CG. So with like the 50-52, the gap wedge styles, the center of gravity is a little lower. There's more mass of the club low. When you get into like the 54s to 56s, I think, right around there, all the sand wedges, it's kind of like a mid CG. It's kind of built into the center of the club. And then when you move into like the lob wedges, 58, 60, they move even more mass up towards high on the toe, have a little higher center of gravity, and it's basically they're trying to help lower hit a little flatter shot with the low irons or the low wedges, and then also help hit it a little higher with the lower loft or the lower loft. I'm going to get so messed up with that. But so it's got the the different CG. So I wanted to see if there was a big difference between my 56 and this 54, which I know lofts are totally different. But hitting them there, I do think this had the stock shaft where mine have the Modus 125 wedge, which for me the Modus 125 wedge definitely flies a little flatter. And I think with these two, I mean this being 2 degrees stronger, it definitely flew a little flatter than I think it, if I put the Modus in here, I think it definitely would fly a little flatter than the SM8. I don't think it's a huge difference, but I think it does fly just a little bit flatter. Overall, like I said, the feel is definitely way better. The grinds seem to be, like I said, the same, which again, hitting off a mat doesn't mean anything. I really wanted to, like I said, I had 2 launch monitors out there because I wanted to see if there was a big spin difference and all that. And of course, they conked out on me. But I tell you what, the SM9, I hit really well. I mean, I was, picking out targets at, that like 90 type area because it's 17 degrees out, so your ball's not going that far. But right at like 90 degrees, and to be honest, it felt really easy to square up. I was really hitting the ball fairly accurate at those targets. Like I said, the misses off the toe will come up short, but they weren't really offline that much. They definitely were pretty much at my target. I mean, maybe just a little bit right or a little bit left, but shots that I missed on the toe, because I didn't really hit much off the heel. Pretty much everything I missed off the toe was, for the most part, just a little bit right or left of the target. It was pretty nice. I was kind of surprised at how easy it was to hit. Is it crazy more forgiving than SM8? No, but like I said, I thought it was pretty easy to square up. And if you looked at between hitting this and hitting the 8th, I definitely kind of hit this one a little bit better. I felt more comfortable with it, and maybe part of it's just the mental side of it, feeling a lot better and having a softer feel. But the 52 is the same way. I was hitting the 52 at targets just a little farther away. It was probably like that 105-ish type area on full swings. But again, I thought the 52, really good feel to it. It definitely was easy to elevate, easy to hit high shots that landed soft. And like I said, it was just, I don't know if it was a honeymoon phase or whatever, but I hit both wedges really well, and I really hit them at the target more consistently than my SM8, which I played all last year. And, like I said, hitting at least the 56 versus the 54 side by side, I was a little more consistent with the 54 and the SM9. And again, I don't know if that's a thing just with, is it something with that CG and throughout the swing, the gear effect as it rotates through your swing? that it was just a better feel for me or what. But I definitely hit a lot of good shots with the SM9. Spin wise, I mean, again, really hard to tell. You're hitting range balls off a mat, so of course, when you hit stuff out there, it was the spots that didn't really have snow, everything would hit and kind of like it would spin, it would just stop, and then with both wedges, you can't really tell. You're hitting into kind of a snowy covered range and all that. It seemed to be pretty high. A few shots that did kind of register on the launch monitor with a 54 were right around that kind of like 9,000 RPM out of like full shots or close to 3/4 to more shots. So they seem to spin great. Again, until I can get them out on the course, I'm not going to really know 100% in terms of spin, but I think they're going to spin really well. I mean, the SM9 has a new groove cut in it, and they're progressive, I believe. So the lob wedges will spin kind of more than the sand wedges, which is more than like the gap wedges. But again, I don't expect them not to be spinny wedges. I think anything that you're going to get out there with these on the course, and they're definitely going to be one of those when you hit it clean, it's going to just have very limited, very controlled release. But overall, I was really impressed. I mean, like I said, I can pretty much only get into the feel and excuse me, the initial launch of them, and like I said, I only took out the 52 and the 54, so excuse me, early morning recording. But yeah, I think they do. Apples to apples, I think they might fly just a little bit flatter, at least in the sand wedges, and in the sand wedge, I think they fly pretty much the same, if not maybe a touch higher, in the gap wedge area. But overall, I think the feel is softer in the SM9 compared to the 8, and I really like that. So I know it's a crappy review, and there's not much I can say about it yet, but that's the problem when you're not able to get it out on the course or even into a short game area and hit some chip shots. I was hitting little, kind of slightly open face little shots into, some of the little flags that are peppered around, and just easy to hit, really easy to swing, and like I said, I was much more consistent with this than the SM8, so I may have to make a switch, and I understand that it may be something like I said, a honeymoon or whatever, but I think right now, if you went just on feel, I'd switch them out from the SM8s just on that. But like I said, I was really comfortable hitting them, and even the D grind off a mat, I can open the face a little bit and still hit hit those shots, still get under the ball. The leading edge does rise a little bit, but not a ton. Grind wise, they look to be the same. The M grind looked very looked like an M grind. The D grind here, when I kind of set it next to my 56, pretty much identical in terms of the look and how how much bounce it had, all that. Pretty much the same. So the 52, same thing. The 10 degree F looked pretty much like my 12 degree F, just with a little lower bounce. And like I said, they were just easy to hit, and I think a little more forgiving than the 8s were. So I'm definitely going to be hitting a lot more of these. I really want to get these on the course when I can, which again is probably going to be about another month, for me, which is unfortunate. But overall, I'm super impressed with just hitting them on the range and hitting off some mats. Like I said, the feel alone I think is really good. So I'm excited to get some more shots with these, and it like I said, isn't going to happen now, unfortunately, but hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I'll keep my fingers crossed to if the old weather gods will shine down on me in a sense. Trying to find the way to move this out of the way here for anybody watching on YouTube. But yeah, if you want to watch this thing on YouTube, and I set the club here so you can kind of see it, that would be you can search Golf WRX Radio on YouTube, and you'll see myself there, and you'll maybe even see myself and Tursky from TG2, because we post there as well. But like I said, that's kind of just an initial SM9. My thoughts. Again, I'll get more thoughts when I can get them on the course, which I know doesn't help a lot of you that are looking to, looking to try them now, or maybe put them in the bag right now. But I think just raw feel and all that, they're definitely worth trying. Even if you had the SM8s, and they're, you're thinking, do I want to switch them out or whatever? Are they getting a little worn? I think trying the SM9s is definitely worth it. So yeah, the other weekend I went out. I had, like I said, I think if anybody saw the photo, I had a staff bag just absolutely packed with stuff. Last week we talked a bunch about Cobra, because I took all the Cobra fairway woods out. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about the Mizuno woods, because Mizuno's got brand new woods out again. And their woods, I think, which everybody knows. If you listen to the show, you've probably tried them. They're kind of super underrated. They're really good. They've produced. I mean, I played so they're on the ST220. The 220 number isn't really pushed that much, but I played the ST190, the 190G, which had the 2 sliding weights, for like half the year when it came out, and I really liked it. I thought it was a really forgiving head. It was very long. It sounded good. I mean, everything about it was really solid. I played that for probably half the year, and then they went the ST. And then they went to the 200, last year, and the 200 series was really good. And now the 220, and it's one of those things where, again, they just don't. Mizuno is known as an iron and wedge company, and when they make woods and hybrids and stuff, they make great ones, and just not as many people care, which is unfortunate. But I think that the people who do try them are very impressed. I think the fit and finish on these things is really, really good. I mean, when you look at kind of how they paint these things in terms of seeing the exposed carbon fiber crown, the gloss black paint. I mean, all that stuff there looks really good. On the bottom, you have basically two plates of carbon fiber, one on the toe, one on the heel, and just, I mean, like I said, the overall fit and finish of it is really good. The top looks, I mean, spectacular. They've done a great job, every time with that. But I do have to say, like I said, it looks really good. They have two models out this year, just like they did last year, STX and the STZ. So the X here is kind of your little more forgiving, a little more draw bias, a little slightly higher launching head, and then the Z is going to be a little more neutral, a little lower spinning, kind of meant for the slightly higher spin player or player who draws the ball a little bit. But 2 models overall, and actually technically they make 3. There's an ST220G, which I think I talked about. God, when did it come out? It was back in the summer or something like that, because I remember talking about it and I took it out. And the G for me, out of the 3, is the 220G is probably the lowest launching one. It's the one that has 3 movable weight tracks, and out of any movable weight driver, at least that I hit, I thought that probably the weights on that had probably the most effect on ball flight that I've ever seen. Out on the range, I was kind of messing around with it, moving stuff around, and definitely noticed a big difference in ball flight when you really move those weights. So the 220G, like I said, for me was probably the flattest launching out of them as well. In terms of spin, I'll try to take all 3 out when I can get a launch monitor that works in cold, and try to hit all 3 against each other. But I think, it'll kind of work, because the X here is a 10.5 head, the Z is a 9.5, and I think the G is a 9.5 as well. But anyway, I think the G is kind of the lowest launching, lowest spinning, and then the X here, trying to line it up. Excuse me. The X is probably the highest launching out of the 3. So the X came with originally like a really lightweight. I can't remember what shaft it was. It was really light. I don't even know where I set it. Jeez. I think it came with a little more lighter weight, a little higher launching shaft. And I took the Project X Hazardous Black Smoke RDX. I took that out of the Z head and put it in the X head. Took it out to hit it, just to kind of give it a little more apples to apples, because the Z head, I had the VA Composites Drago that I talked about last week in that head. So swapped it out. That way I kind of had stuff that was a little closer to matching up. But the X head, I kind of didn't, anything that they basically say is, hey, this is a little more draw bias, a little higher launching. I don't mind the higher launching, because I don't launch it crazy high. So that part of it I don't necessarily mind that much. But anything that says draw, I get a little sketchy about, just because I definitely hit it left, as most of you know. But this actually surprisingly didn't have that much left to it. I was kind of expecting more draw out of it, and it didn't have that much. I mean, really, yes, it didn't go. The Z is definitely a more. It's a more neutral club. It really is. Everything there basically wanted to go straight to maybe even go right a little bit or fall right a little bit. Where the X, everything was pretty much straight to a little bit left, but it was really if you look at all the shots I hit that day, I mean, majority of them were more straight to just having a slight draw to them, which is kind of my normal shot shape. Then really things start, going left and just staying left. It was definitely a straighter ball flight than I thought. In terms of, granted, again, I hit a few that were dead left. For whatever reason, both these heads, I was hitting the center of the club a lot. The Z, especially with that Drago, I was just all over the front, the face. I mean, every shot was just basically vertically. That's where I missed. I made their hit it a little higher, a little low off the face. The X, I think I got one or so, a little more in the heel in there, but still, again, I was striking the ball pretty well with both these drivers that day. And like I said, good shots, dead straight. They had a good feel to them, like Mizuno's done the past couple of years. The sound is solid as well. It's kind of got a little more of a bellowish sound where it's a little louder than other drivers than say like the Stealth or something like that. Even the Rogue ST is probably a little more muted than these. They're a little louder, but they're not unpleasant sounding. They're just slightly different. Like I said, they've got kind of like a little more of a bellowish sound to them as the ball as it makes impact. But overall, the sound is really good. It feels really solid. Like I said, I was hitting the center of the face and it felt good. Had a good soft feel to it. You could feel the ball kind of jump off the face and go. Distance-wise, definitely long. They kind of held up with everything else out there. I did have, I think, the Stealth out there with me that day. And everything I hit there was, out there landing right at kind of the net, which is at the end of the range or just before it. And like I said, the X was definitely, a little more forgiving. Like I said, I caught a couple shots off the, a little more off the heel. And those shots there definitely still stayed pretty much straight. They weren't just like low little, cuts that went out there and didn't really carry any distance. Launch is definitely a little higher, and it has a little like steeper or a little higher apex to it. It's not quite as a flat a trajectory as Z for me. But the X, was easy to launch, easy to get in the air. And I know it's a 10.5 compared to a 9.5, but even so, the launch there was definitely a little higher, a little easier to hit in the air. And anything that you missed, on the X, pretty much, had very little curvature to it. I mean, you'd miss it and it would go left, or, it would draw a little bit or even hook a little bit, but it didn't have a ton of curvature. Things stayed pretty straight. Like I said, shots off the heel seemed to carry pretty well, so misses, off the heel seemed to be pretty good. Again, don't have exact data because it wasn't my fault. But the shape on the X is a little different. It's a little more triangular back at the heel. Not a huge difference when you set them down. The Z is definitely a more rounded driver from the look. Like I said, X is a little more elongated from face to back. And it's got a little more of like, kind of an angle to it, a little more triangular angle to it. And it sits pretty much dead square. I mean, even for a driver that's built to, or labeled as, slightly higher launching, slightly higher spinning, more of a draw driver, it sits pretty much dead square, which I think almost all drivers, or almost all Mizuno drivers, the way they're built, they basically sit dead square to open. I've never seen one look shut unless you're basically adding as much loft as possible from the sleeve. They may sit a little shut then, but in neutral or pretty close to neutral playing position or settings on the adapter, they pretty much set dead square to even slightly open. So the look on it is really good. Like I said, slightly different than the Z, slightly more angled, but I don't think anybody would really, set both those down and say one's ugly and one's not. I just don't see that happening. If you're not a fan of, fairly rounded drivers, both the X and the Z are pretty rounded. So if you don't love that look, it may be something different for you. But no, the X is really good. Like I said, for being a kind of, I think they label it as kind of a mid-spin draw driver. Like I said, I thought it had definitely less draw to it than I expected. And like I said, the apex, the ball flight was definitely less boring, less penetrating than Z. It definitely did. I wouldn't say rise, but it definitely had kind of a steeper apex. It got to that apex and kind of would fall a little faster. As opposed to Z, which was just a little bit flatter. But X was really good. I was like I said, really shocked at that. And if you look at the specs, you read, you go to MizunoGolf.com and you check out all that. Don't really be scared away by the draw verbiage and all that in there, because I just didn't see a ton of that. And also I think if you're somebody who you hit a pretty straight ball, you don't really want to hit this big draw, whatever. again, I don't think you need to be scared about it. I think it's still worth trying, especially if you're somebody who needs maybe just a little bit more launch or needs just a little bit more spin. I think it's a great head in that in that arena. And in terms of forgiveness, I think it's going to hold up with pretty much everything else out there. And I think in distance it should too. Again, I would definitely want to get it out and kind of hit it side by side with with some other drivers and have some actual numbers, but at the moment, I don't have that yet. But X is, like I said, surprisingly good. I was kind of shocked because I think last year's X was kind of, well, it was built. I think it was sent to us with like a Project X like Riptide CB shaft, and it was like really lightweight and all this stuff, and it kind of turned me off from the X last year, and then this one, putting in a little heavier, a little stiffer, lower launching shaft, I think it actually made the head play really well. So. Overall, I think the X, like I said, don't be scared away by the draw. Verbiage on it. I think it's definitely worth trying, especially if you're looking for something that has little help launching and adds a little spin. If that definitely helps your game. And then the Z is they're going to call it like the player's profile. It's definitely a more rounded driver. I would say if you like a lot of the look of the Callaway stuff, this Mizuno kind of fits in there. It's just a very rounded head shape, but looks really good. Sits open at address. When you set it down, I've seen some of the previous heads, like on my 190, looked like it was 2 degrees open at the standard setting. But this one here, I was sitting with that VA Composites Drago, and like I said, it was pretty insane. I mean, I know you probably won't be able to see it or anything, but like the face markings on it, I basically hit everything, vertically. I basically hit everything in the dead center. I was extremely consistent with my ball striking. I got to say that that didn't necessarily mean that nothing went right or left, because I was able to hit a few left, that's for sure. But like I said, the Z has a little flatter ball flight, a little more penetrating. Like I said, I didn't have numbers, but I would definitely say it's probably a little lower spinning, and it definitely has a little flatter launch to it. It comes out a little lower, but it's still easy. It's still fine to get it up in the air. In terms of forgiveness, I can't say a whole lot about like toe and heel mishits, because out of the I don't even know how many balls I hit. At least 20, I think, something like that. I didn't really hit too many off the heel of the toe, which is extremely unlike me. But everything was pretty straight. Like I said, with this one here, pretty straight. On really good shots, I would still have just that fall to the left type draw, because that's just what I do. But I actually did hit a couple that had a little fade to it that was just me, either not releasing the club fully, or me basically kind of like dropping that right side, that right shoulder, that whole right side of the body, and kind of flaring it right a little bit, which I've known to do sparingly, but I do it. So you will notice with this thing, it does move a little bit right to left. You can definitely work the ball with it. In terms of flighting it, I don't flight drivers, so it doesn't matter. You probably can definitely flight this one better than the X, but I'm not that skilled. I'm just trying to basically hit my straight to slight draw shot. But overall, I think, like I said, more penetrating. It's definitely long. The sound again on it is good. It's not crazy high metallic. Like I said, it's got a little more of a kind of bellowish sound to it, which, like I said, is not bad. It's just a little bit louder to me than, say, Stealth or Rogue ST, but nothing crazy loud or crazy distracting or anything like that. But overall, I think it's a really solid. I think both drivers are really solid. I think if you're a player looking for, the flatter launch, a little lower spin, the Z does have a CG that's a little more forward and a little, I think it's a little lower on the face. But yeah, it's kind of that low mid spin. I don't think either one of these is going to be like insane low spin. If you're looking for like the lowest spinning driver, out there, for that, I think the ST. The ST220G would probably be more in line if you're looking for something that's crazy low spin. But I think something like the Z is going to be, for that player who, wants a neutral ball flight and doesn't need to hit it crazy low, or maybe needs just a little bit of help getting the ball in the air. Grabbing one of those in like a 10.5, I think is going to be, easy to hit and very playable. But both these things performed really well, and I think they're, again, those drivers that if you give them a chance, you go to your shop, you try them, you're going to be really surprised at how well they play and the performance of them, because Mizuno does a really good job, and as much as they're known for just doing irons and wedges, they do a pretty darn good job with woods. So, the Z, like I said, the Z I really liked. That's the one I liked hitting a lot. Like I said, the X is definitely surprisingly how good it is, but the Z will probably get a few more swings from me. I'll probably take it out a little more, and hopefully, like I said, when it gets just a little bit warmer, I'll take kind of all three heads, the Z, the X, and the 220 G, and try to kind of bring, I'll bring one shaft out and hit all three with the same shaft and kind of see how things go. But overall, really impressed with the Mizuno woods, as I've been pretty much every year since the 190. I remember the blue head before that. I don't remember what number that was. I know a lot of people in the forum, in the Golf WX forum, were talking about that head being really good and really hot. I never actually hit that head, I don't think. But like I said, from 190 to now, I think Mizuno's done really well, and I think they're definitely worth trying if you're looking for a new driver this year. And then they also have out the brand new this year is the STX 3 wood. So there's an STX 3 wood, and Mizuno again has been making a lot of woods here for a while. And let's see if I can get this to sit here without crushing everything else. So the STX 220 fairway is actually a titanium fairway, and basically built to be big, oversized, and easy to hit. And it's basically, I think it's got a titanium face on it as well. So titanium 3 wood, and then I think when you get down to the 5 and 7 wood, it's a steel face, but titanium face in construction. Definitely an overall larger profile than most 3 woods. Got a fairly deep face on it as well. And they promote it as easy to hit, high launch, and draw bias. And again, this one's probably got a little more draw bias than STX driver, but it's actually super easy to hit. It's got a deep face, which I usually like for hitting off the tee, but it's got a deep face, and it actually is still pretty easy to hit off the turf. I was kind of surprised that just setting it on the mat, hitting it there, still able to launch it pretty easily, get it up in the air. When you hit it thin, it definitely stays a little low and flies out flat. But when you hit it solid, it definitely gets up in the air easily. It's definitely easy to turn over. You can hit a little more draw with it. Like I said, a little more draw than the X driver. But again, not crazy high draw like TSI 1. That's labeled as super high launch and a lot of draw. Didn't notice that. Didn't have the same ball flight there. This thing just had a Tensei AV65 stiff in it, so kind of a mid to slightly mid-high launching shaft. And like I said, off the turf, super easy to hit, easy to elevate, easy to get off the ground, and the thing seems like an absolute cannon. Definitely has that titanium metallic ting to it when it goes, which I think is fine. It's kind of like hitting a Stealth Plus, has that little more metallic ting to it. These titanium 3 woods seem to always have that, which is pretty cool. And the thing definitely goes. It's for sure long. I think one of the first couple shots I hit with it, absolutely nuked it off the center of the face. And it was distance-wise, flying. Again, hard to tell with landing when you're just visualizing it and you're landing basically on a snowy range. But it was, you're basically creeping up on that could be driver long, hitting some really, really good shots. Off the tee, it's really easy to hit. Like I said, that deep face give you a lot of confidence that you can tee it up a little bit and really let it fly. And like I said, overall, the ball flight, it definitely it takes a little bit of right side out of play. If you're somebody who draws the ball heavy and you're looking for kind of like that, I wouldn't call it a mini driver, but you're looking for that 3 wood that just goes an absolute mile. This thing's there, but it's not going to be a fade machine by any means. You're definitely going to have some draw to it, but it's easy to get up in the air. And off the tee, it actually wasn't anything that went crazy high. Like sometimes you get some of these things that are designed to go high and left, and you just can't hit them off the tee because it just adds launch as you tee it up, and they just go basically straight in the air. This thing still flew pretty flat. It seems to be pretty darn low spin. It goes like crazy, and shots off the tee are pretty flat, pretty penetrating. They do have a little bit sharper apex than say the Z driver, but also you're looking at a 15-degree 3 wood. But yeah, it's the low face shot still actually went a good ways. That wave sole that they've got on there I think does add a little compression, and it definitely gets the ball going when you miss it low. Shots high off the face, I mean, they go high, but they go straight. I mean, it is pretty forgiving head. I mean, they do. There's a lot of head there, a lot of mass, and hitting stuff pretty much anywhere in the face. The ball's pretty much going to go straight to have a draw to it. I mean, for most players, it'll probably take that right side out of play. And it like I said, forgiving, stability wise, mishits, it definitely does go straight. It's not something that, if you miss it off the toe, miss it off the heel, you're going to see, a huge change in direction on those shots. But it's a really forgiving head, and it goes really, really hard. It'd be interesting to see with kind of like a stiffer lower launching shaft, would it take a little bit of the right out of it? And then how much of the, how much launch and stuff would it take out of it? But I think it's one of those heads that, right out of the box, I think it's, if you're somebody who you fight a little fade, but you want a long, really long 3-wood, something you can just rip off the tee or even off the turf, this thing is definitely a monster. I think I think this thing, would compete with the Stealth Plus a little bit. The Stealth Plus, I think, is a little more neutral. It doesn't quite have as much draw to it as this thing does. But I think in terms of, overall distance and, in that, this probably, for me, launched a little higher than Stealth Plus. It was a little easier to hit, a little higher launch. But I think overall, I mean, distance-wise, it could be, an absolute monster just like that one. It'd be really interesting to see, put a little heavier shaft, cut a little shorter, and then throw a little hot metal in the toe, and see if that would actually make it, a little more neutral, and then even a little more of a beast. But overall, like I said, I was kind of impressed with it. I thought I was going to run into kind of the same road as Titleist TSI1, where took it out, hit it, went high, went left, tried to put a stiffer shaft in it, still went high and left, and just couldn't find success with it. And I pretty much figured this would be the same, and I was wrong. It's actually a really good 3-wood. Like I said, I'm impressed with it. I would love to see, like I said, cutting it down, throw a little hot melt in there, and see if it could turn into a real missile off the tee. But we'll see. Maybe I'll go down that road with that head. But again, liked hitting it. I like that sound. I'm kind of like falling in love with like that titanium ting when it goes, and that's never good because they're always super expensive. But I really do like the sound and feel of that thing. So the STX220 titanium 3-wood, absolute cannon. But it's really fun to hit. I think it's definitely worth trying. And if it's something where you're looking at, say, the Stealth Plus or TR21 Big LB from Hanma. I mean, any of those, if you're looking for like a titanium 3-wood, something that's really long, maybe a thing for the tee, I think you got to throw it in there in the mix. Unless you're somebody who hooks the ball or draws it really hard, okay, then maybe you can kind of I mean, I would still hit it, but you're probably going to find that a little harder to go. But if you're somebody who hits a pretty straight ball or you hit a little fade and you want to hit a little draw with a 3-wood, it's definitely worth trying. It's pretty cool, but again, I'll try to get out again to get some actual numbers for it. But like I said, overall, really impressed with how that thing played. And like I said, most Mizuno stuff, it's just they make really solid woods. I've got the hybrid here. I'm going to hit that. I just haven't. I didn't have time. Kind of when you only have 100 balls and so many swings in your body, you can only have so much. So I've got the hybrid here too, the ST220 hybrid. So I'll take that out probably this weekend and hit that as well. Then I'll have that to report back on. But overall, I think the Mizuno wood line, again, it's going to be underrated. It's going to be one of those things where people aren't going to give it kind of the time of day when they should, and it is really good. So if you're in your shop, you're just trying stuff out, and you see the Mizuno rack, don't be scared. Grab, like I said, the STXZ, STZ, STX. Try out the drivers for sure. I think they're really good. And then, like I said, if you're looking for something kind of special in the 3-wood, yeah, maybe take a look at the STX. It's definitely maybe a little more niche than other 3-woods, but I think it's worth a shot. So that's all I've got. Like I said, I'm gonna hit the I'm looking at the head cover of the hybrid over there in my staff bag, so I'm gonna hit that soon. I'll probably reshaft that because it does have, I think, a little. I might have a regular flex shaft in it. I got to double check, but I'll probably reshaft that and take it out and hit it. But yeah, I think that's all I've got this week. I know it was kind of a rambling show, and I know it wasn't as in depth as I'd typically like to be. But when you hit it in 17-degree weather, you're kind of limited on what you can do. So anyway, hopefully you guys have a great rest of the day, great weekend. Get out, play some golf if you can. And if you want to, hit me up at Club Junkie Pod. I'm trying to do my Q&A today, which is Thursday, the day I will launch my show. And yeah, we'll talk next week. See you guys.